I'm Congressman Duncan running for the presidency of the United States, and I want to tell you about the border fence. You know, in the 1980s, the San Diego-Tijuana border was out of control, and through that #1 smugglers corridor in America, that area between San Diego, California, and Tijuana, Mexico, most of the smuggling of narcotics and people took place. Hundreds of thousands of people, tons of narcotics were pushed through by the smugglers. It was a no-man's land. We had armed gangs that roamed the border at night. They robbed, sometimes they beat and raped the illegal aliens coming through. It was terrible. It was so bad that we actually had a plainclothes police force from San Diego that would hang around the border and wait to be attacked by the border gangs, and then they would pull their guns, and there would be either a shootout or a series of arrests. And because of that no man's land and because of that massive smuggling, I built a border fence. First, we built a steel fence using Desert Storm-type landing nets, big steel planks that we welded with using Army Reservist welders to big steel poles. We built that first fence across the San Diego-Tijuana border. You know, that stopped the drive-through drug people, the people who were bringing through lots of cocaine and marijuana in vans. It also stopped a lot of the vehicle-borne illegal alien smugglers. But we want to do better. And because of that, I wrote the law that was passed in 1996 that mandated a triple fence across the San Diego-Tijuana corridor. That means you would have a fence on the border, then a Border Patrol road, then a second fence, then another Border Patrol road, and yet a third fence. That would slow down and stop the smugglers and allow the Border Patrol. It was so effective we never had to build that third layer. We have stopped and decreased by more than 90% the smuggling of people and narcotics across that #1 smugglers corridor between San Diego and Tijuana. You know something else? When we built the border fence, the crime rate in the city of San Diego, just a little to the north, dropped by FBI statistic by 53%. Well, this year, I wrote the bill that extends the San Diego border fence for 854 miles across the major smuggling routes of Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas. 854 miles. It's mandated that that fence be constructed. And you know that bill for the border fence passed the House by a very large margin. It passed the Senate by 80-19. President Bush signed it on October 26th. Now, you know, this is what the border looked like before we built the border fence in San Diego. This is what it looked like after we built the fence. The 854-mile extension of the San Diego border fence would bring that kind of stability to the entire border of the Southwest and make America a lot more secure. Now, let me tell you, in my estimation, border security is no longer simply an immigration issue. It's also a national security issue. And let me tell you why. In 2005, we caught 155,000 people coming across the border from Mexico who weren't citizens of Mexico. They came from virtually every country in the world, including 1,100 people from communist China and a few people from North Korea and Iran. Very simply, everybody in the world knows that the way you get into America illegally now is no longer coming through the airports because they've been blocked to illegal travel. If you want to get in illegally, you come across the land border between Mexico and the United States, and anybody with a few bucks can get to Mexico from any point in the world. Border enforcement is now a national security issue. So let's get back to the border fence. We passed it. The law that I wrote was passed and signed by the President last October. I picked up the phone and asked the Department of Homeland Security the other day how many miles of border fence they've done so far. So far, they've only completed 2 miles. It's time to build the border fence. And this is my commitment to you. If I'm elected President of the United States, I will finish the border fence, all 854 miles, in 6 months. It can be done very easily. You simply use multiple contractors, starting at multiple points, and you do all the work in all the sections concurrently. We can do it. We're Americans. We know how to build fences. And you know something else? That will bring stability not just to our side of the border. It'll also bring stability to the south side of the border. You know something else? About 200 people, mostly illegal aliens, die of dehydration in the Arizona desert every summer. If we build that border fence, that's going to keep those smugglers from pushing those people across the line where they find themselves in 110-degree heat the next day, and a number of them die. So there's a humanitarian aspect to building the border fence. I want you to join me in helping to build the border fence. Call up the Department of Homeland Security. Tell them that you want them to follow the law because it's a law that the fence shall be built. And once again, remember my commitment to you that I will complete the border fence in 6 months after taking the oath of office as President of the United States. Thanks for listening.